Mi español es trágico. Así que voy a hablar inglés, por favor. Gracias. So I'm Mara Kiesling. I'm the executive director. It's not for right now, I'll put it back on later. I'm the executive director of the National Center for Transgender Equality here in Washington. We're up on the 7th floor. Julie may have told you there's 9 LGBT organizations in this building. Our organization focuses on federal policy, and we do a little bit of other stuff, things that are of national significance. Around immigration issue, and Julie wanted me to talk about immigration and covered most of it, but that's okay. I'll tell you a couple things I think are really important. In finishing up what Julie was saying about our community understanding immigration as an issue, it's still true that whenever, even Julie's organization, when they focus on helping Americans with their immigration problems, everybody likes them. If they focus on helping non-Americans with their immigration problems, other than when they're a couple with an American, they hear about it from some people. But her organization's been very strong at standing up and saying, no, immigration is an important issue. Our organization, the organization that's on this floor, has been very good at saying immigration is an important issue. But the community, our community is still made up of Americans, and Americans still have this sense of exceptionalism and parochialism. Good luck with that one. Where we just think our issues are the only important issues, and anybody outside of the United States is only trying to get our stuff. And so I'm sorry about that too. But one of the interesting things that I think I'd like to talk about that fits into all of this is very little of the work that LGBT people in the United States do is around a human rights framework. We don't think about human rights here. We think about civil rights. And in fact, most Americans don't even understand that there are human rights structures that we could avail ourselves of and use that could advance our causes, even advance our civil rights causes. So we've tended to have a movement that's been focused on changing laws, changing procedures, and those sort of things. One of the things we're, at our organization, looking at doing now is to try to get more involved in in some international work, particularly around transgender stuff, but also around some LGBT stuff. And we've been moving at it very slowly because we don't want to just do it badly. We don't want to step on the good work that everybody else has already done. We don't have a messianic complex that says, everybody else needs Americans to come fix their problems. So we've been talking to lots of people around the world to try to figure out how we can fit in. And one of the ways that we're being told would be very helpful for us to fit in is if we started taking our complaints with the American government to international commissions, international structures. It's something that's very, very rarely done. If you go to any of the commissions and you look at their workloads, it's always a surprise when something from the US comes up, because none of our groups, most Americans don't even know that these kind of things exist. So that's going to be our next sort of entree into our international work, so that it's really complementary to what everybody else is doing in other countries, and so that our country our government starts getting some pressure from other governments. It's though hard to convince any American government that we're not perfect. So what we're working on that's might be interesting to you is we're doing a lot of immigration detention work. We are doing, one of our lawyers did a training in somewhere in Texas at the ICE training facility. That's our Immigration Customs Enforcement facility. And we're now working to finalize some sort of a webinar, a web-based training thing. We've been doing things like I went to an immigration detention center in California where they have a specific LGBT unit. Specific because we were trying to poke at our government. And we were like, how can we poke at the government? And we decided we would try to send VIPs to the detention centers just in hopes that maybe it would help a little bit. We're working a lot on documentation issues. And something I'm really very proud of that our organization is doing, there's a new group in Washington, D.C. that just helps people get documents, not immigration documents necessarily, but they are going to hopefully interface with that and try to figure out how to help that, but identification documents like driver's licenses and such, which can be especially troublesome from people who have come here from other countries. And so this new organization is formed with 50 attorneys. 50 attorney. 15 es 50. 50. Trágico. They're a brand new organization, so they're going to use us as their umbrella or as their head organization so that they don't have to do government paperwork, they don't have to file taxes, they don't have to hire staff. They'll just use our organization for that, and they can focus their 50 attorneys on just helping people get identification documents, which is what they're saying they're going to do, but they have so many attorneys that I think they're going to start branching out into other kinds of legal services. And they deny that, but they will, and I think at least intaking people who have immigration questions and then getting them to the attorneys that specialize in that will be something they all work on. Another thing we've been working on a lot is with our State Department around our international work. I don't know if Julie mentioned that in December, President Obama issued an order to all American agencies that do any foreign policy work to see if they could do better LGBT work to help LGBT Americans overseas, but also to help LGBT people in other countries. And it's really paid off. A lot of the agencies have come to some of our organizations and said, we really want to do better. What kinds of things should we do? So, for instance, in the transgender part of the work right now, the World Health Organization is considering changing the international diagnostic codes for diseases. This is a really important thing for trans people because we're still, in a lot of these medical configurations, considered mentally ill. Well, there's a little federal agency in our Health and Human Services Department that is the U.S. interface with the World Health Organization. So we've gone to them and said, here's what we're trying to do at the WHO, will you help us? Then there's the USAID. I don't even, what does that stand for?
Agency for International Development.
Agency for International Development. USAID. Oh, and it even spells aid. Huh. So we worked with them to try to make their policies and programs better for LGBT people. And then a really interesting thing that I did recently was, my cards. I spoke. Our State Department did a teleconference at our embassy in Bucharest, Romania. And I spoke, but from here in Washington, D.C. via Skype. Skype?
Yep.
Ah.
It's the same.
Your Spanish is so good, Mara.
I can say Skype in Spanish.
Yeah.
Excellent. No más trágico. Oh, and
Thank you.
yes, and so we got to talk about how the work we're doing here in the United States and in some other countries we knew about might be relevant for the activists in Romania. Plus the State Department, our State Department has always sponsored trips like I think your trip is
Yes.
through our State Department. Wait, could I ask everybody to put on your glasses? And may I take your picture?
Sure.
Okay, you're going to like the flash.
Wow.
Oh, you want to make sure they.
Oh, okay.
Very great.
Wait till you see the flash though. The flash is the best part. Ready?
Yeah.
Oh.
One more time.
Yes.
That's great.
Ya no estamos video todos.
Yeah, can you? Okay, maybe it's through the lens. Can you make it again? The flash one?
Oh,
See if it shows up on the camera.
¿Qué le pasó?
Oh, that's yes.
Ya no estamos. Tómanos.
oh no.
Okay, just.
Oh, there's some right there.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, everybody.
Oh yeah, Beto, you gotta get your big glasses on.
Yeah. So estamos aquí y bueno, ya vieron el flash, pero estamos de verdad disfrutando esto.
And you notice they say envision trans equality. What's that? Trevar?
Sí, son para ver con nuestra visión trans.
Claro, claro.
All right.
De
So,
equidad trans, claro.
so that's another thing we're doing. So we're trying to reach out, and that's a really easy way to do it. I got to speak in Romania, and it only took me an hour and a half. And so I spoke in Romania, and so did a representative of the U.S. Justice Department and a local medical provider. But we're looking for other ways to do that. We've been working on a conference we're going to have next year on transgender policy, and our whole first day is going to be an international day where we're bringing in 20 or 25 activists. And then I'm going to Dublin, Ireland in a few weeks. There's a Transgender Europe conference. And one of the things we have to figure out how to do is to start doing a Transgender North America conference and a Transgender Americas conference. I don't think the first one of those should be in the US. That's just my opinion. But we're going to try to figure out how to be better allies and be more engaged. At least our organization is just going to be working our butts off to hold our State Department accountable for doing good work, for holding our immigration people accountable for treating our guests and our new residents fairly. That's really hard right now in the United States.
Mara, I just have a little question. When you talk about trans people, you also talk about men, trans men,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We use the broadest possible range of explaining what a transgender person is. So we do not mean only transsexuals even.
Okay.
Right? We mean anybody who's facing disrespect or discrimination or violence because their gender identity or their gender expression isn't what people want it to be, isn't what other people want them to have. So we try to be as broad and inclusive as possible, but we very much consider ourselves an LGBT organization also. We always try to include sexual orientation in our work, and we very much consider ourselves a social justice organization.
And I have, sorry, but when the AIDS conference is so many trans people coming to Washington, D.C. So my question is, in Mexico, we don't have yet the federal law to change the passports, the name of the passports.
Right.
So maybe they still with the original name, you know, if one. So the visa, the American visa came with the actual
name.
the new name, or
I don't know. Do you know, Julie? I think you'd have to have a visa match your passport.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, but you know, then the problem is, and Mara, I'm sure can tell you this, if you look like a woman, like me, and you go to with a passport with a man's name, and you travel, there can be some problems.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you know, there's still a lot of Americans traveling on bad passports.
Okay.
But we're trying to get past that. So does Mexico have a national ID?
No. No. IFE, yeah.
Yes, we do have.
It's not national, it's just for vote, but we use like a national ID.
Right.
But
Yes,
we don't have national ID, like
Right.
in fact. Yeah.
Right, we don't either, and most countries do, which makes transgender advocacy a little easier because you have that one target. We have to change every driver's license in all 51 states. Washington, D.C. I count as a state.
And Puerto Rico.
And Puerto Rico. Well, and other, well, yes.
Virgin Islands.
And but we also just do birth certificates and other kinds of things.
Bueno, ustedes